Hey everyone! So this summer I interned at Capital One. I was a technology intern. So I thought I'd tell you about my interview with them and how I was pretty sure I bombed it, so I had no expectations. But then they hired me, so I did something right. Capital One was one of the companies that I literally just yeeted my resume to. Then I heard they were a good place to work at, and they're a bank, so you know they got that moolah. And I was like, oh, okay, so I'll just go and wing it or whatever. Don't do that. But I literally just rolled up to the career center and was like, I'm here, ready to interview. But I wasn't. So the first part was technical, and I don't remember the questions they asked because that was the part that I didn't do super well on. And by didn't do super well, I mean I straight blanked and panicked and bombed. It was like pencil and paper, they give you the problem and they're like, yo, solve this. And then I couldn't solve it. Literally, I remember thinking, it's over, they're not gonna hire me, they're gonna think I'm stupid because I can't solve this linked list problem, I'm pretty sure it was. And I just sat there and I struggled. I basically was just waiting for the thing to end because I gave up like halfway through. You know how sometimes people like know you're giving up and they kind of just like guide you to the answer? That didn't happen. It was super stressful, and honestly when he left I was trying really hard not to cry because I knew I just bombed an interview, and it was like anxiety and shame and just like F. Anyway, that was only part one. So for the second part, it was behavioral, and I had like a 10-minute break in between, and I was trying just to like collect myself again and be calm, and was like, it's already over, but I have to do the rest of it anyway. And so this lady came in, literally she walked in, went to shake my hand, and I stood up and I was like, hi, how are you? Except it wasn't like that, it was more like shaking and almost crying. She was super nice. She was like, oh honey, are you okay? And I was like, no, I just bombed the technical interview. I think I literally said, I was like, yeah, I should put more recovery time in between the interviews because I was so stressed. And she was like, oh no, it's okay. And then she gave me a hug and she was super nice. And then massive shout out to her. I was dead ass like breaking down. Super embarrassing. She was really patient with me and she like explained step by step, like it was almost robotic. It was kind of weird, but like a sweet kind of robotic. So she was like, this is how it's going to go. I'm going to ask you 3 questions and you can take your time before answering. The answers I had for my behavioral were like ratchet. The first answer I gave was, I told her about the time me and my friend were doing our homework for an algorithms class and we just could not figure it out because we're dumb and algorithms is hard. We were trying to get my roommate, who is a biochemistry major, to help us out. So we explained to her the algorithm and the concept and the problem we were trying to solve. And she literally did sit there for like maybe at least like half an hour trying to help us before giving up, being like, you guys this is like out of my league. And we were like, it's also out of our leagues. So I basically described that one time I explained this algorithm to my biochem major roommate, and that was my first answer. It was a stable matching algorithm, by the way, so it wasn't like too complicated. Then my second answer involved teaching myself how to play ukulele in my free time and teaching myself how to bake macaroons in my free time. And my third answer was about arranging Big Little Week for Chinese Student Association, which is a club that I'm super, super involved in and somehow still super involved in, even though I'm a senior and I want to do nothing. Another problem. Anyway, I told her about that and she was like, okay, that's great, bye. I was like, oh, what the? I literally was just like, did they gain anything from my answers? If you asked me what they thought of me from those behavioral question answers, I could not tell you. I guess they got to know who I am a little bit better because I got to tell them my hobbies. And then the third interview actually went really well, and I'm still convinced that is the only reason I got hired. basically went from like absolutely terrible to like oh, she's not actually that stupid. So the third part was the case study. So he was like, oh, so how'd you prepare for the case study? I literally said, oh, I was hoping you could just explain it to me and we could just try it out. And he looked kind of like surprised, and I was like, I probably wasn't supposed to say that, but it's okay. With that, basically what happened was he was like, Capital One is thinking about this business thing. They want to acquire this thing. What do you think? Blah, blah, blah. So he wanted to get some like business sense first from asking me like, what do you think about this decision? And like, why do we want to do this? And I was like, you always want to be ahead in technology because that's a good answer for everything. And that's pretty much what I was saying the whole time. Like, you don't want to fall behind, right? You're a bank, technology. Capital One has said so many times during my internship that they're a tech company that does banking on the side. So they're really like, we want to be like at the forefront of technology, innovation, blah, 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 all that stuff. And then the like technical part of the case interview was like the dude showed me some like piece of code. And it was like the worst, most redundant piece of code I've read in my entire life. Basically, it was like, if I give you 3 parameters, I want a true false, right? But it was like 10 if statements when in reality you only needed 1. So I had to just parse through that and be like, oh, this is what you really need. And then it was like, oh, you'd replace this like 20 lines with these 2 lines. And he was like, okay, great. And then there were some questions regarding that and some good practices when you're writing code and committing to like a larger code base. Like, you want to make stuff better, but also not break other stuff, which is, I think, pretty common sense. And I think like the icing on the cake for this one was he asked me like, oh, like what kind of test cases do you need for this? And it was basically like a truth table. So with 3 parameters, there's only, oh my God, with 3. Yeah, anyway, I basically was like, oh, you just test all 8 of the cases and that's it, you're done. And he was like, oh, good job. And I was like, oh, great. And then I finished and I was like, oh, that went pretty well. But still, like walking out of that interview, I was still like crushed from my technical interview flop. I literally didn't think I was gonna get it. But then like a few days later, I checked my email like first thing in the morning. I was like squinting at my phone. Congratulations, Capital One. And I was like, congratulations. I was like, is this real? And then I had a call with the recruiter. She was like, this is what's up with your internship. This is where you can be. This is your salary, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, it's real. I also was super lazy and they were the first company to give me an offer. And I was like, yeah, okay. And then I just took it. So yeah, that's basically it. I'm really happy that I got to intern at Capital One this summer, especially because other companies were canceling this summer and Capital One didn't. What I want people to take away from the story is not to be too hard on yourself during interviews, because if you get too much in your head, you're just gonna freak out. If you go for an interview, just believe in yourself more. You never know what'll happen. If a dumbass like me can land an internship at Capital One, you can do it too.